Misawa Henry. She's here. Finally. After like how many hours of this game? Like 75 hours? We actually get to see her actual sprite. Because, well, I guess because Kurusu Nono is not really Kurusu Nono. Technically, we saw her very early on. We just didn't know that it was her. Anyway. No. It was.
Kurusu Nono. いや、南沢千里。
お前どうしてそれにその姿。も
う偽るのはやめたの。これが私の南沢千里の本当の姿。
Okay.
もしもこれで全てを失うことになったとしても、もう嘘はつきたくないから。家族に隠し事はしたくないから。
You know, the first thing I just noticed is that her eyes, like, you know, by the way, what do you call it again? Tsureme? Something like that? I forget what you call it, but basically her eyes are much sharper, which tends to be, like, in anime characters anyway, tend to, like, indicate her personality, you know? So she's, like, I guess, a cooler character now. She's cooler.
だから、たとえこの姿であなたに嫌われたとしても、私は本当の私でいることに決めたの。
Nono stood in front of me with a D sword in her hand.
南沢千里、今さら何をしに来た？
あなたなら聞かなくても分かってるでしょ。あなたの手からタクルを守りによ。
I wonder if they well, I don't know. I think it's the same voice. I mean, technically her power is like she can change her voice, but maybe it's the same voice. You know, I was thinking like, do they have to change the voice actors just for like this scene? But I don't know.
その醜く無様な姿で
Ugly? Why is that ugly? I still don't understand. She's still a wife, but come on, she has pink hair and she has big old anime ribbons and everything. She's your typical anime girl. She's even better than Kurusu, I feel like. But anyway. Risa somehow undoing her transformation made her stronger. Now she can beat Saraka. Calling it now? I guess so. It's kind of like dropping your weights, you know? Now you're stronger.
そうか、面白い。でも邪魔をするな。お前の出番はもう終わった。
You're rolling the game. Nice. Nono flinched back in fear as the blade sliced through the raindrops. He was still calling her Nono. Her expression twisted in pain. It was only then that I saw the blood and cut on her shoulder. It's a flesh wound.
何が？邪魔をするなと言っている。この偽物が。
私はもうクルスノノの偽物なんかじゃない。私は南沢千里。本物の南沢千里よ。
It was a type of resolve. You could call it determination. Amazing. The determination to abandon the life she lived for years and be reborn anew.
そんなことどっちだっていい。 私は宮代拓の望みを叶えてあげるだけ。だからお前は邪魔なんだよ。
拓の望み。
そうだ、宮代拓は自分なんていなければいいと思った。消してくれと思った。だから私がその望みを叶えてやる。なぜならそれが私、尾上セリカの存在する理由だから。だからそこをどけ。
そんなのダメよ。私が許さない。
Well, Saraka's sword was designed to attack, I guess. You know, it's hard to tell. The design looks very, flashy and gaudy. But Nono's D-sword is heavy, and as hard as she was, it seemed hard for her to use. Well, it's also in the reverse grip. I mean, there's probably videos on YouTube that explain this, but like using a reverse grip, at least on a long sword, is a horrible idea. You know, I feel like a lot of movies and anime, they do this where they put the sword on the other way. But like, that doesn't make any sense. You don't do that. How do you hit someone with that? Anyway, whatever. Who cares? Anime logic. Nono wasn't Nono anymore. Anyway, she was Misawa Henry. She was feeling the pain from all the terrible experiments she suffered over the years. Saraka's attacks slowly started to push Nono back. How's she even holding that? It's like kind of weird. Like, I don't know. It's a really just weird sword. It's weird. You know, I said this before. I never really liked any of the D swords. You know, they really do feel like merchandise. Like they were just, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't really the real reason, but like I feel like this is what it gives off. You know, like they were trying to sell toys or something. I don't know. You know, it looks like a toys. Look, it looks like giant toys. You know, that's what it looks like. I don't know.
タクルは私の弟よ。あなたに殺させなんかしない。
No.
そんなの。お前こそ家族を壊した元凶だろうが。
それでも私は。どけ
ー！ The blade shook like thunder. A swirl of wind appeared through Saraka's feet.
どけって言ってるんだよ。
The fierce blow knocked Nono to her knees. Her tiny, thin neck was defenseless and exposed. You know, all your necks are kind of like thin and tiny, but anyway. A cold voice and a white flash. I pointed the weapon I pulled from the Sea of Chaos, feeling its heft in my hand. Okay, so we blocked the attack. Again, it's very similar to what happened last time. Kind of like a repeat, to be honest. Except that, Nono is no longer Nono. She's just better. She upgraded. I'm gonna be honest, she looks more interesting than Kurusu Nono. The original Kurusu Nono, anyway. I think it's because of the ribbon.
じゃあどうしてその女をかばうの？そいつはタクを騙してたんだよ。
ああ、そうだな。
だったら。
でも。
Well, maybe it wouldn't be that easy to forgive her for lying to me. But everything she'd done for us, she'd done as part of our family. Not as Kurusu Nono or Misawa Henry. She'd given us her love, and it was real love. It probably didn't matter what her name was, or where she was born, or what she looked like. You know, again, I wanted to point this out, but like, the whole idea is that apparently, she's always like, oh, I'm so ugly, you know, no one loves me, or everything, you know? But like, look at her. How is this ugly? I don't understand. beauty standards in anime is so weird. Anyway, look at this. How is this? How is this ugly? It's not ugly at all. Anyway, what I really wanted, it was to once more.
そうか。それが宮代拓の望み。だったら。
Smug. She's smug again. Saraka looked up and smiled, then readied her weapon.
その望みごと葬ってやる
What? Okay. The D-sword became a hurricane of light as she attacked me. So aggressive in this, in this route. It was the one thing to say it, but I was still feeling pain from where Kawahara had hit me, and just knocking back Saraka's attack was enough to make my body scream.
どうした偉そうなこと言ってその程度か
Cool battle music though. I never heard the music before. Yeah. Shining beams collided, scattering rainbows everywhere. Sword and sword collided, like two magnets drawn to each other. I like the synths and the music. Anyway, my lungs hurt like they were on fire. Saraka found a hole in my defenses and attacked. Her D-sword knocked mine upward and threw me off balance. I really like this music. I don't know. It's great. The glowing weapon went straight for my exposed neck. I put my hand up to protect my throat. The inside of my left wrist was torn open. I felt the heat before I felt the pain. The warm rain fell down and spread the blood into the puddle at my feet. I bit down my teeth hard to keep from passing out, then tried to judge the distance between us again.
どうしたやられる一方だぞそんなことで
The fierce blade struck again. I just barely managed to move out of the way in time. At this rate, she would kill me. Like Saraka said, if I didn't attack her, this was the only way it was gonna end in one way. But the pain, exhaustion, rain, and sweat were already blurring my vision. My strength was at its limits. If I could just land one hit. One hit.
どうタク楽しい楽しいよね私はすっごく楽しい
I blocked her attack with the blade of my own sword and threw her off balance just a little. The air of self-satisfaction vanished from her face and it was replaced by fear. I didn't miss my chance. What I wanted was... It wasn't destruction. It was a future with Misawa. That's right. Her like twin-tail, pink hair, waifu Ura was actually better than the whole stepsister thing. So it was actually a superior wife anyway. That was my choice. I put all my strength and all my wishes into a single swing of the blade. Saraka raised her weapon right in front of me. A bluff? Was it a trap? No. If you countered now, there's no way I could. If you strike me down, I'll become even more powerful than you can possibly imagine. I saw her smile. And then... she fell to the ground. I could still feel the sensation in my hands. But there's already a superior... There's already superior twin-tail waifu? I guess it's Aramura. Huh. She twin-tail? I can't... Yeah, she's twin-tail, right? Yeah. At least in this game. There's also a bunch of twin tail waifus and a lot of different other media, obviously. But yeah. Well, red blood spread silently on the asphalt. Asphalt.
おのどうして
Saraka knew exactly what I was going to do. Well, she's trying to become a force ghost. If she wanted to kill me, she could have. So why? Funny. She always says that at the end of her routes, you know? She always says that. Did you have fun, Taku?
おの
よね。私はタクが望む世界を見せてあげたい。それだけ。
おのえ
私はタクが望んで生まれた存在。でも今タクがそばにいてほしいのは私じゃない。
Saraka smiled at her faintly.
タクのことよろしくね。セリカ。
ごめんおのえ僕のせいでこんな
ねえタク一つだけお願い。
僕にできることなら
Do one more thing for me. And then she tricks us and then she stabs us in the face. Die for me, no.
私を終わらせて。それができるのはタクだけだから。
Okay, so we're just gonna like, you know, we're gonna stab her face instead. Just commit some murder. But again, well, does she count as a person? You know, she came from our brain. Is she a real person? Does she count as a, you know, someone we could be able to, like, if we kill her now, will we be charged for murder? I don't know. But just like she asked, I took the D sword and pointed it at her body. But
どうしたの。
ダメだできない僕にはそんなこと
しょうがないなタクは。
she smiled happily and grabbed the blade with a shaking hand. And then,
バイバイタク。
the D sword went through her body without a sound,
おの
like a knife through butter. The girl I created, the girl who was always there for me, was surrounded by a cocoon of light, which vanished into thin air. Oh, and then she died. Who's gonna explain the body? No one's gonna be able to ID the body because she's never really existed, but oh well. Well, the veil of rain that had covered the sky had vanished, leaving behind a stench on the asphalt. I looked up to the sky and saw a rainbow in the heavens. I could hear the crunching sound of footsteps on gravel going further into the distance.
ノノ
見ないで。
No, look at me. I was about to turn back, but I stopped when I heard the rejection in her voice.
ごめんねタクル。もう二度とあなたの前に姿を現したりしないから。
No way, you're cuter this way.
でもね、これだけは信じてほしいの。確かに私は嘘をついていたけれど、あなたたちのことを大切な家族だって思ってた。お願いよ、信じてくれる？
Believe, not again. Not again.
私はもうクルス・ノノじゃない。
The footsteps started again. Nono was leaving. We would never see her again.
今までありがとう。 さようなら。
How are we gonna explain this to the kids? When I turned around and saw a small girl, she was facing away from me. It was the first time I had seen her, but I'd seen her 1,000 times before.
Nono!
I ran after her and grabbed her hand and forced her to look at me.
いや、やめて。
どうして？
だって私はののちゃんじゃない。こんな醜い顔タクルには見せたくない。
Again, it's the whole like, you know, they have this ugly face. Ugly? What are you talking about? This is just breaking my immersion. Anyway. I held her close as she squirmed and tried to look away.
ごめん。僕。
タクル。
僕は間違ってた。お前がクルスノノか南沢千里かなんて関係なかった。どうだってよかったんだ。
Senre looked up at me surprised. For the first time I could see her face. I'm calling her Senre now, I guess. It's her new name. You know, Nono just had some... You know, I guess the way we explain to the kids, you know, Nono had a haircut, she dyed her hair, and she had some breast reduction. Don't worry about it. It was different than Nono's. Maybe she covers the ugly parts of her hair? Well, I don't know. I guess... Well, before, it was a Haida Riko, for example, that had like a very similar thing where she's hiding a part of her face, you know, because she was like burnt or whatever, I guess. I don't know. But, I don't know, just from looking at her, even less so, you know, you don't see any scars or anything. Like, it's still like perfect skin anyway, so I don't see anything wrong. I don't know. Well, I didn't have a bright charm or her bold features, but...
だって、お前が僕の家族で、僕にとって大事な人だってことには何も変わりはないんだから。
タクル。
Tears fell from Senri's eyes. Memories came flooding back to me.
そうだよ。いつも僕を見てくれていたのはこの瞳だったんだ。動けない僕を献身的に看病してくれたのも、辛く苦しいリハビリに時には励まし、時には叱咤してくれたのも、僕のしでかすバカなことに本気で怒って本気で笑って、そして本気で泣いてくれたのも、いつだってそばで見守ってくれていたのはこの瞳だ。いつだって差し伸べてくれたのはこの小さな手だった。
I mean, yeah, this is basically what I was saying, you know. It's the same person. You know, it would be more, again, more... it'd be worse, you know, if Kurusu did, like, suddenly change into a different person, like, halfway through before when we knew her, but we didn't really know the real Kurusu. It was just Senre the whole time anyway, so it's basically the same person.
全部お前だった。確かにお前は嘘をついてた。クルス・ノノじゃなかったかもしれない。けど僕を絶望の闇から救ってくれたのは本物のクルス・ノノじゃない。南沢千里、お前だった。
That was the truth. So...
私を許してくれるの？
No. It would be funny if Takeru said, "Nah, I don't forgive you." No. I nodded silently.
クルス・ノノじゃなくても？
言っただろ。お前が僕の恩人で家族だってことは変わらない。
I held her tight so that she would never go anywhere again. And I
Sandy.
said her name. her real name.
何
But as it turns out, she wasn't Senre after all. You know, it's another layer. She's actually someone else again.
おかえり。
ただいま。
Yeah. Humans were temporal beings. Temporal? Temporal beings. I think it was the philosopher named Heidegger who said that. Who? Who said that? Heidegger? A German philosopher, born in 1889, dies 1976. Metaphysics, theory ontology, he defined time as past, present, and future, where all three equal, continuous, and infinite things. His theory says the present is the principal axis upon which the past and future are created, and time is created, okay? Any things I guess there's a bunch of things I haven't read. Ban, you ban someone, I guess. Bootleg, inferior copy, cheating in the game, first-person shooter, FPS. Amazing. TPS. I feel like people never say TPS though. People mostly say FPS. Gender bending. Amazing. Hypnos is a younger brother of Thanatos, god of death, god of sleep. Microscopic evidence. Ah yes, blood, semen, footprints, tire tracks. Person of interest. Someone is important regarding crime, and a train is where. Oh, I remember in the Kazuki chapter. I guess it's just a bunch of words I haven't read yet, but like, a tiny player comes within a certain distance that moves just out of a monster's attack radius, causing it to follow you. Multiple monsters can be gathered up in this manner, causing them to form a train behind the player. This is called training. Oh, yes, of course. Is it called? I don't know. Is this called something else in Western MMOs? Because I feel like train would definitely be mixed up with the other word for train. You know, like training as in like training levels. You know, training experience or whatever. Training up your skills or something like that. I don't know. Anyway. Just looking at that. You know, there's achievement, you know, actually, for reading all those tips, so I guess I'll do that. But I guess there's more tips later on, because I haven't got the achievement yet. Anyway. Time moves from the past to the future, and time is what rules over human lives. In that process, the past is lost, and new things are born. The return of the new generation madness gradually began to fade from people's memories. The girl named Onoi Saraka, who was a person of interest in the case, vanished, and without any firm evidence, it was impossible to know if she ever existed at all. Okay, I guess her body kind of like vanished like a servant in Fate Stay Night in Fate Go, you know, like psh, and then she left the treasure chest. The case came to an end without a satisfactory answer, and then the four of us still live in that cheap apartment.
ほら言うと早く準備しないと遅れるわよ。
Okay.
ちょっと待ってよ。この番組終わったらやるから。
そうやってテレビばっかり見て、ウキちゃんはもう準備できてるって。
It's funny how like she just, you know, how did we explain this to the kids? How I don't know.
行ってきます。
Suddenly, just Kurusu is just someone else.
待って、僕も行くよ。
いってらっしゃい。
行ってきます。
Well, mornings were always busy like this.
たく、あんまりうるさくしてると。
Oh, there's Kunasato. The pounding on the wall was another thing we got used to.
また後でうるさく言われるな。
しょうがないわね。また夜にクッキーでも焼いてお裾分けしとくわ。
She's also much shorter, by the way. How do you explain that to the kids? I guess Kurusu just got shorter and she got a new wig. Her face is a little bit different. Anyway.
頼むよ。どうした？
まさかこんな日が来るとは思ってなかったな。
Kurusu Nono becoming Misawa Henry had created no end of problems. Of course, Yuto and Yamazori wasn't sure how to handle it at all. Her name and appearance were totally different. I knew it would be impossible for them to think of her as the same person. But inside, she was the same. She'd gone back to looking like Misawa Henry, sure. But she was still Kurusu Nono, the cheerful, healthful girl who kept the household running, and she's pouty face. After a few days of living with her, both of them got used to the idea that Misawa Henry was their sister. Of course, they were family. We couldn't exactly tell everyone else that Kurusu Nono was actually another girl all along. So it ended up that Kurusu went to live with some very distant relatives, just as a new transfer student named Misawa Henry came to the school. Is that a good idea though? As I was saying before, weren't there like the people behind those experiments looking for Misawa Henry? I don't know if they're still looking for her. Maybe not. I don't know. It was hard for her to rebuild her relationships with her old pals from the ground up, but she pulled it off. Kurusu no, she went off to like live at the farm. You know, now don't worry about her. Of course, a few of them.
Oh, Chaosu, Miyashiro senpai.
Chaosu.
Kurusu. Harimura-san.
Oh, okay. I guess, you know, the people from the newspaper club. They know the secret.
じゃなかった。南沢先輩。
お前な、いい加減慣れてくれよ。
んなこと言ったって、そう簡単に行くもんじゃないですよ。ねえ、花。
So shorter, you know, compared to everyone else, you know, I was used to her being a little bit taller, but now she's shorter than everyone else. We told the people who knew about the case the real story.
つうかさ、3年なんだし、今更無理して学校来なくてもよかったんじゃねえの?
Yeah, Nono was just getting some cigarettes, you know, she was just going to the store to get some milk, and she never came back.
僕もそう言ったんだけどな。
あのままみんなと別れてしまうのは寂しいじゃない？
そんなもんかね。
I never would have taken a risk like that just to see the people in my class. But maybe that was just a sign of how she changed.
で、今日の部活は？
悪い。今日はちょっと行くところがあって。
行くところ？
ええ。なに先輩方2人で？もしかして無夫婦な感じ？
Okay. Why is Kazuki so angry?
違うわよ。そういうんじゃなくて。
About, you know, I guess Senri's and Takuru's relationship. Well, I said before, maybe, you know, Kazuki swings in a, you know, certain way. And maybe she was, well, it was in her, like, a chapter, actually, I remember.
まあ、たとえそうだとしても、一
She was
つ
giving
屋
the
根の下に
eyes.
暮らしてるんだから、今更って感じだし。
He was giving the Yuri eyes towards the original Kurusu Nono, you know, maybe that's it. Anyway. She's jealous.
それよりタクル、そろそろ。
ああ、そうだな。
We said goodbye to everyone and left. Yeah. Go on a date. The sky was the same color it had been after the rain stopped on that day. We headed for... No. Go here. It was a grave far away from Shibuya in the suburbs. The body that had been originally buried as Misawa Henry had now been quietly interred in the Kurusu family grave as Kurusu Nono. I guess organized that. Kurusu Nono. She was a girl I knew well, but one I've never actually met. Weird. Senre put her hands together in silent prayer as she faced the cold grave. There was so much she had been able to say, so much that she wanted to say. Kurusu Nono and Misawa Henry were finally talking to each other as the different people now. The sin of using her, the sin of burying her, the sin of lying. The guilt from those sins would never go away. But still.
ごめんね、ののちゃん。これからたくさん辛いこと、悲しいこともあるかもしれないけど、それでも私はもう逃げたりなんてせず、立ち向かっていこうと思う。南沢千里として。それが私にできるあなたへの手向けだと思うから。
Well, the smoke from the incense rose toward the sky, blown about by the wind. And in the wind,
頑張ってセニちゃん。
ah yes, the ghost from beyond the grave. I thought I heard a voice. Everything that had happened so far was a mix of plots, misunderstandings, miscommunication, and successful efforts. So whenever I wanted to cry, what I've become.
タクル。
ん？
これからも私のこと見守ってくれる？
I take the hand of the girl next to me, feel her warmth, and walk with her together, just like she'd done for me, for the sake of tomorrow, and for the future. Okay. Happy end? I mean, a few people died, but don't worry about it. There you go, credits. Alright, I assume that's the Nono route, which was actually the Senre route. I was saying before, you know. In the middle of my playthrough, I was wondering if we learn more about Misawa Henry, and as it turns out, we knew her all along. What a twist! There you go. That's interesting. And you know what? I like this route too. You know, I was thinking it was kind of getting monotonous, but then again, that's a lot of routes I guess do this, and especially the main route, where they were like living as a family and everything. It was kind of like a little bit, you know, not too interesting, but then. You know, bam, here's a shocking revelation, I guess. There you go. Kind of like, I wonder, is there really... Like, it's hard to remember everything, but I really wonder, like, if there's any, like, other hints that would have told us exactly, like, what had happened with Misawa Henry and Kurusu, you know? That sort of thing. Like, what kind of scenes are different now, if you look back at the playthrough? I don't know. Well, there you go. The Senre route, as it turns out. It was interesting. I like it. Yeah, I like it. Like, let me just skip this part. Oh, not exit. I keep exiting. Skip the credits.
ねえ、タク、楽しかった？
I was gonna say, just like the Uki route, I like this route too. Pretty alright. I like it. You know, again, for some, you know, I read before, like, when I searched like the Kazuki route, like any kind of discussions that were on the internet. And everything. And people, most people just like the Kazuki route, and I'm like, no, I don't really like it, to be honest. I don't like the Kazuki route. There's a weird sword there, but there you go. Oh, it says right there, true. I don't think I'm gonna click on that yet. But yeah, again, that was all. The overall is pretty good. I like it. But I guess those are the 4 routes, you know, after the main route. But giant sumo man, giant sumo sticker man. I don't know how I feel about the Kazuki route. It was just really ridiculous. But everything else, I like all the other routes. And I guess there's the true end right here. I don't think I'm gonna do it yet, you know. But I was thinking like there's a few small loose ends I want to do first. So I don't know if I can do it now. We'll see. Let's see. I'm gonna do it now. I'm not sure, because there's some delusions I missed technically. There's this delusion, but I wonder if was there a delusion that I missed somewhere here? I don't remember. Where was it? I'm gonna check that out in my guide, I guess. I think it's around here. It's also funny that we saw her D sword, you know, in this apartment. I was thinking like she was a gigolomaniac. That was my first, you know, idea. But you know, as it turns out, that was not correct at all. She's not a gigolomaniac. She just has a replica sword. Anyway, I can't remember. Did I choose negative for this one? Let me see. I saw something strange in the corner. You know, so this D sword. The best way to describe it would be called a sword. Wasn't sure if most people saw it would think that. Its design was complicated and frankly unrealistic. For some reason, looking at it made me feel uneasy. Made me feel really bad, actually. What was that? Someone told me it was for cosplay. I probably believed them. Yeah, that's what I was saying. This whole time, these are just anime cosplay swords. Did you maybe have a third identity? Maybe she was a famous cosplayer. Or maybe she was a tour artisan who made life-size weapons. Maybe she was an otaku who collected swords. I don't know. Either way, felt like a bad idea to mention it. Best to just ignore it. Best to pretend I never saw it. Trigger on. Well, there you go. That's an achievement. a negative
宮
person.
代
So this is the last negative delusion that I missed right here.
その件が気になるのか
Kunosato brought it up, and I was trying my hardest to ignore it.
いや、別に。
I tried my best to laugh and avoid looking at it. Come on, don't make me talk about this with you. I just knew it was going to end badly. But Kunosato took out the blade with a calm look on her face. She swung it around and assumed a fighting stance. Her moves were graceful and beautiful. For a moment, I fell in love. This sword was a perfect weapon for her. I didn't know why, but that's how it seemed. She swung the sword right in front of my eyes. I could hear the sound of it cutting through the wind. No. I could see some of my bangs falling to the ground. It was incredibly sharp. If it touched me, it would slice me in half. It would tear me apart. I gulped.
お前たちをお前をここに連れてきたのは他でもない
Oh no.
口封じのためだ
To keep us from talking, oh no. No more delusion in the true era? I assume so, unless maybe there's some other option? I don't know.
Huh?
There is other delusions. I mean, it's a true end, so pretty much the epilogue, I guess.
私は内閣特殊調査室のスーパーエージェント久野里美代コードネームは青の剣士
Yes, azure swordsman.
お前は今渋谷で進行中の極秘プロジェクトについて知ってしまったゆえに生かしてはおけないんだ許せ
Kunosato took a step forward, moving as if she was about to begin the dance. It only took an instant.
タクあれ私
You know, I imagine, just like a bunch of blood just splurts out of her neck. Psh, bleh. A spurt of blood burst from Saraka's chest as she fell over. Okay, maybe not her neck, but and this is what I imagine an assassin would be. We saw an assassin in the Kazuki route. Now this is an assassin. Not like weird, like mind torture. Just use your sword and just slash them. What just happened? I didn't even see Kunosato swing her sword.
全員言い返しては返さん呪うなら自分の運命を呪え
Blame the misfortune of your birth.
やめろやめてくれ
He exploded. Ito screamed and fell, blood pouring from his chest. I still couldn't see it. The sword moved so fast. This was the power of the super agent, the Azure Swordsman. Kunosato turned toward me. I only had a few seconds left to live, but for some reason, as she held the blade that killed Saraka and Ito, Kunosato seemed so beautiful.
お前が見ている景色は
He is pretty
本
cool.
物ではない世界はすべてエラーだ
No, is this like a Matrix reference? I was saying how like the whole Gigalomaniac thing does really draw a lot of similarities with the Matrix. No, those are the last things that Kunosato said to me. Then everything went black. Maybe it was some small mercy of hers that I didn't feel any pain. There you go. All right. Huh? Nini? What the hell are you thinking? Okay. It was all tropes and cliches. When the castle after 10 weeks. Maybe it was an anime reference. Maybe this is a version of some kind of anime.
ケイさん俺マジファンだ
そんなことはどうでもいい
Technically, I can't skip this. Oh no, okay, now I can.
地下施設
Anyway, so there you go. That's one of the delusions I missed. And I believe the last delusion I didn't see, I think it was this one right here. I think I missed it right here.
ありがとう
So this delusion, the only delusion I think that happens in Senre's chapter. You know, this is Senre's. Oh no, Senre, we know this. I chose negative last time. Let's choose positive. And this is where we're like, you know, we were just getting some ice cream with the family. Amazing.
チョコとバニラでよかったよね。
I wonder what the positive is. I mean, it's pretty positive right now. Getting some ice cream. Pretty delicious.
そうでしょ。甘くて美味しいね。
Delicious.
っていうか、ケーキも焼いてるのに甘いものばっかでいいのか？
甘いものは別腹って言うでしょ。
And we just move a little faster. Go, go, go. Made everyone happy. Nono too. Everyone's happy. They have ice cream and everything. Ah, there you go. There's the achievement. I got a positive, you know, person and Gigglemaniac, I guess.
美味しい。美味しくて身も心もとろけちゃいそう。
A gangster Nono. Too bad she's not a gangster this time. Ice cream? No, I was gonna say ice cream devoured the Nono. No, Nono devoured the ice cream and went right for the cone. That's really fast. Like, oh, yeah. She looked like she was in a state of ecstasy.
美味しかった。
なんだよ、もう食べちゃったのか？
でも
She looked longingly at mine. It's like
何？
a weird feeding fetish. It's like Saber from Fate Stay Night.
こんなのじゃ足りない。もっと欲しいな。
She has an infinite stomach. The Nono appeared into my eyes, her cheeks flushed red. She was fidgeting and rubbing her thighs together. It was kind of a turn on, okay? Why? No. Why? My heart skipped a beat. I stopped licking the cone and gulped down my saliva.
ねえ、タクルの舐めちゃダメ？
僕のって、新しいの買ってくればいいだろ。
違うの。私が舐めたいのはそっち。
Nono looked at it and poked her tongue out. Yes. The pink flesh poked longingly through her pretty lips.
すっごく美味しそう。
You should limit your sugar intake.
ねえ、
You're gonna get fat.
ペロペロしてちゃダメ？
Unless, well, I don't know. Well, we know Misawa Henry's power now. Can she like just get really fat and then just transform into someone else so she just never is fat? I don't know. Or maybe can she transform into herself? Is that a thing she could do? Like she just, I don't know. Like no matter how much calories she eats, she just stays the same form. I don't know.
いいけど、
That'll be OP.
ユウトたちが見てる。
You do it in the middle of the street, I don't know.
いいわよ。私は見られたって平気。
Okay. That is, yeah, extra lewd for the last positive delusion. I guess all the positive delusions, I guess, there's just lewd fan service. I remember. Well, there's one, well, some of them are funny, actually. I like the one where they reference Star Wars. That was pretty funny. Anyway. Was that okay? The Nono was practically begging for it, for my ice cream.
そこまで言う
Gonna
の
lick my ice cream in the middle of the public streets.
ちょっとだけだぞ。
She gave me a seductive smile and brought her face close. She really likes that ice cream. Then she licked it with the tip of her tongue. This ice cream is just very delicious. You know? Maybe it's just her favorite flavor. You just imagine the voice actor, you know, doing this in the microphone. It's like wondering, like, is this a hentai or what am I auditioning for? Again? Well, her tongue moved from the tip down across the rest of it.
タクルの味がする。
Her eyes were looking up at me from below.
ねえ、もっとちょうだい。
I saw her tongue flick seductively for a moment before her tiny mouth swallowed the whole thing. Not my ice cream. She ate my ice cream. We didn't have a chance to eat it. Why is she so greedy? She ate all my ice cream. The hell? The hell, Nono. A smooth, clear liquid dribbled from her mouth. Now she's making a mess? What is she? Her tongue flicked about and wrapped around the whole thing. Pleasure signals stimulated my brain one after another. It was all I could do to stay standing.
タクルももっとしてもいいよね。
クルス。
What, Nani? The walls of my reason collapsed. Suddenly, everything's destroyed. My head shook up and down.
じゃあ声に出して言って。タクルが望むなら私は舐めてあげるから。
もっと舐めて。
聞こえないよ。
舐めてください。お願いします。
わかった。ちゃんと言ってくれたご褒美してあげるね。
You like more of my ice cream? The crimson lips opened again as she slowly put it in her mouth. Amazing, yes, of course.
タクルの指、おいしい。
That was my finger. Ah, yes. And she's eating my finger, and then she eats the rest of my body, and then I die.
ねえ、のの姉ちゃん、タクル兄ちゃんどうしちゃったの？
大丈夫。いつものことよ。
Was I thinking about doing this in the middle of the street? Okay. So there you go. That's the last
結局、
positive delusion, I think. Yeah, the last delusion. So we pretty much, finished everything else right before we need to do the true end, I guess. I guess whatever. I go here. I know. Alright, there you go. Let me just look at the thing. Anything extra? Ending list. There you go. I got most of all the other endings over Skyen, Dream Skyen, another Skyen, which is like Inception, Dark Skyen, where like it actually ends pretty like pretty dark actually, Adamura was like in her dream world as we die, something like that. As she cradled our dead body. Deep Skyen was just ridiculous. Real Skyen actually did have a happy ending actually, for the most part. I don't know. I do like, if my favorite ending, I probably rate it as like, I don't know, I like Uki's the best, I like Uki's chapter the best, and then Senri's, and then Adamura, and then Kazuki, to be honest. I don't like Kazuki's. I guess the main route. Well, the main route is the main route. You're forced to do it anyway. I don't know how I feel about the main route. Technically, we're not finished with the main route because there's still the true end. There you go. Finally, I guess we'll have to do the true end, the sword in the corner of our eye. If we click on true, I guess, and then we'll see exactly what happens after the main route. I guess we'll do that next time. That's what I'm gonna do. There you go.